Good evening and welcome. I'm Andrea Mulryan. I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County, and I'm thrilled that you're here with us tonight and those of you watching at home for our final debate of this primary election season. Believe it or not, it's almost May 17th already. Tuesday is May 17th, so we'll be out at the polls that day. We'll hope for nice sunshiny weather that day. The League of Women Voters is a political, nonpartisan organization. We are volunteers, and we encourage the informed and engaged participation in government. So that's why we host these kinds of events, to help all of us, ourselves included, understand who the candidates are and make informed choices when we go to the polls. I want to thank our co-sponsors, our partners tonight, the University of Scranton for giving us the use of this beautiful facility, the College Democrats for partnering with us, helping us write questions, the Political Science Department at the University of Scranton, and also ECTV for being here and making all of these events that the League does available, not only on ECTV, but also through our website, www.lwvlackawanna.org. I invite you to visit the website not only to see the debate, if you want to rewatch what you're seeing here this evening. Also, our debates with the county commissioner candidates that we held last week. We had one debate for the Democratic candidates and another for the Republican candidates, and then also taped interviews that we conducted at the end of April with the Lackawanna County Controller candidates and the Scranton City Controller candidates. Those are both on the Democratic ticket. Those races are not contested on the Republican ticket. Since Pennsylvania has a closed primary, we're only focusing on contested races at this point in time. But having said that, I do want to call your attention to the fact that we do have 6 candidates with us this evening on the Democratic ticket. We'll be voting for 2 of these candidates next week. But there's also a Republican ticket. There's one candidate on the Republican ticket, that's Lee Morgan, and he's here with us this evening. So Lee, I want to acknowledge that you're running for office, and we'll see you in the fall pitted against whoever comes through on the Democratic ticket. So thank you for joining us here this evening. If you appreciate the work that the League does, I invite you to join us. Again, we are nonpartisan, so those of us who are, in the public eye can't talk about our partisanship. We do vote, so we do have our own opinions, but we hold them to ourselves. That doesn't mean that all of our members need to be strictly nonpartisan and can't support their own candidates. So please don't hold that as something that would impede your joining the League. We invite you to join us. All voices are important to us. And you can join us. There's membership brochures in the back or outside, and also through our website. And again, if you appreciate the work that we do and you care to make a financial contribution on the way out the door, we'd appreciate that. It helps cover the incidental expenses for the things that we do. The format for this evening is that no questions were given in advance or topics to any of the candidates. There will be no opening statements. We've allowed a 2-minute closing statement for each candidate. In the interest of time, I ask that we hold all of our applause until after your candidate's closing so that we can just move quickly on to the next next question. We're going to try and cover an awful lot of ground in a 90-minute period. We've asked all of the candidates to turn off their mobile devices, not only so that they can't look things up while I'm talking to them, but also so that it does not interfere with the microphones on the stage, so we appreciate that. Before we started, we drew a name to determine who would answer the first question first, and then we'll move in a round robin alphabetically after that. Doug Miller will answer the first question first, and we drew to determine who would give the first closing statement, and Giovanni Piccolino will give the first closing statement. So with that, let's move on. I first want to introduce all of our candidates here this evening with some information that they've provided to us in advance. Tom Charles, first alphabetically, is from Trips Park. He's born and raised in Scranton. He owns the Vine Street Service Station for 16 years now in the Hill section. He's a graduate of Central Scranton High School, and he has done quite a bit of community service as a baseball coach, a basketball coach, Knights of Columbus, and he's the vice president of the Dante Club. He lives with his wife, Lisa, as I said, in Trips Park, and he's got 2 children, Joshua and Jacob, so Tom Charles. Jock Loscombe is from West Mountain and lives there with his wife, Susan. He's got 3 children and 3 grandchildren. Jack is a retired city firefighter and now works in the insurance and appraisal industries. He's lived in Scranton all his life, having graduated from West Scranton High School and Johnson College, and he's also taken courses at several other colleges as well. He is now appointed to City Council. He is filling the unexpired term that Bill Courtwright had been elected to sit in, and Bill, of course, moved on to the tax collector's seat. And Jack has spent a lot of time working on muscular dystrophy with the boot drop, so Jack Loscombe. Bob McGough is also an incumbent City Council member, and he's serving his first four-year term, running for re-election. Again, lived in Scranton his entire life, lives in South Scranton now with his wife Marita. He has 3 children and 4 grandchildren. He's a retired teacher, having been an educator for 35 years and a basketball coach. Graduated from South Catholic High School. He has a bachelor's degree in history from Hofstra University, a master's degree from the University of Scranton in second education and history. Bob is most proud of working on the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick, and he also serves on the board of Scranton Tomorrow. Doug Miller is lifelong born and bred in West Scranton. He is working now at his family's business, Gelati's Pizzeria, but he was the former legislative assistant in the 113th Legislative District Office. He graduated from West Scranton High School. He attended Lackawanna College. He's the founder and president of the Scranton Junior City Council from 2006 to 2008, and he is the secretary of the Scranton and Lackawanna County Taxpayer and Citizens Association. Giovanni Piccolino lives in Minooka, was born and bred in Moscow, and graduated from North Pocono High School. Giovanni is the owner of Buona Pizza on Lackawanna Avenue, and through his business has supported the community in many ways through St. Francis of Assisi Kitchen, throwing dinners, and providing scholarships from the pizzeria. Joe Wexler is an East Mountain resident, again born and bred in Scranton. He lives there with his wife Kathy, and he has 2 children, Drew and Amy. Joe is a plant manager at North American Manufacturing in Scranton, a graduate of Scranton Central High School. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Public Administration from the University of Scranton, and he has served as the vice president. He is the vice president of the East Mountain Residents Association. He served in the past also as president, and he served as well 5 years on the Scranton Zoning Board, where he served as chair at the end of his term. So that's a little synopsis of who our candidates are this evening. And with that, as soon as I find my questions among my many pieces of paper, there we go. We'll get started, and Doug Miller will give the first response. Doug, you have 1 minute to respond to this, and the question is, why are you running for this office? And I'd like you to cite specific relevant experience or accomplishments in the private or public sector that distinguish you from other candidates. So why are you running, and why are you distinctive? You've got a minute.
Well, first of all, most of all, the reason I'm running is because for many years I've been an active member in our community. Since a young age, I took an interest in our city government. I began by speaking at council meetings, voicing my opinions on several issues regarding city-related matters. As you stated earlier in my introduction, I served on the Junior City Council for 2 years, and during that time I had the privilege of serving with my fellow students, learning more about our government. I had the opportunity to work one-on-one with members of City Council, members throughout the administration, within the park system, Department of Public Works, through many projects we did in the city. And during that time, it gave me a better understanding of how our city functions, the everyday operations of the city, the budget process, and so much more. And that experience for me was truly amazing. And my passion grew for this city. And I feel that I'm qualified for this position because of the dedication I have, not only for the city, but for our people.
Thank you. Giovanni, the same questions to you. Why are you running, and what distinguishes you from the other candidates?
The main reason why I'm running for the office of City Council is for the people. I feel that the people need a representative up there of the people. I live in this city. I work in this city. I own a business in this city. My son will be going to the school districts in the city. So I know how difficult it is to get by in the city nowadays. I think we need an honest, fair businessman up there. I believe I've done a lot with the community. I pay attention to what goes on in the community, and I just feel I'm very qualified.
Thank you. Joe, the same questions to you. Why are you running, and what makes you distinctive? You have a minute.
Well, I have been active in the community since I became a young man. I have the educational experience that prepared me for this job. I have been a neighborhood leader. I have accomplished many things as a neighborhood leader. I was part of the team that put together the East Mountain Road project, which was added to our neighborhood. I served on the zoning board, which prepared me to deal with the public on issues that are close to people's hearts. and I feel that I've been exposed in a way that's prepared me to handle the exposure that you are required to be a city councilman.
Thank you. Tom, the same question to you. Why are you running, and what makes you distinctive?
First and foremost, I mean, I'm the only candidate I believe that's not going to take a salary. I think it's important that we give something back until the community gets on its feet, until we get back to the positive side of everything. That's something that's very important to do. I'm a businessman. I mean, I have employees. I budget money. I'm in the gas business, which I don't have to tell anybody how difficult that is. And I've been doing it for 16 years. I really think that I can make a good job. I've run independently. There's nobody else that I've run with, and I have no enemies sitting up here with me tonight, and I think that I can bring both sides together.
Thank you. Jack, the same questions to you. Why are you running, and what makes you distinctive?
As a lifelong resident of the city of Scranton, I do have a passion for this city. As a father and a grandfather, I want to see my family grow up in this area. I have had the opportunity to serve the past year and a half in the capacity as an appointed city councilman, and I feel that we have accomplished quite a bit in that last year and a half. And I think the things to improve the neighborhoods, the cities, the public safety, my service to the city as a public safety servant on the fire department, I have that in my heart. But I do believe that we have a lot to be done yet, and I believe that we've been accomplishing a lot in the last year and a half as I've been on city council, and I believe we still have a lot more to do, and I would like to continue to work for the people of the city.
Thank you. Bob, the question to you. Why are you running, and what makes you distinctive?
4 years ago, when I submitted my name to take to try for the unexpired term of Mr. McTiernan, I believed that I had something to offer to the city. Years of living in the city, years of experience, and dealing with people in the city in various capacities, as a teacher, as a coach, as a member of a parish and a community. I believe that I brought something to city government. In the 4 years that I have been on council, I believe that I have learned how government operates. I believe that I have provided an avenue for progress with the administration and with council, and I believe that I can continue to do that if reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a second now. I'm told that once again we have a little bit of a technical difficulty with one of the wireless mics, so you guys are going to have to play nice and share the mics. Okay, we got the rules all set now. The next question, it's a two-part question. We're going to go down the table, and I'm going to ask you to answer the first question, yes or no, and then I'm going to come back to Giovanni, and I'm going to give you 90 seconds after that to expand on your answer. But the first question is just yes or no. Okay, nothing more, just yes or no. So the first question, and Giovanni, you're going to answer first, then we'll go to Joe and back to Tom. Should the city have a balanced budget?
Yes, the city should have a balanced budget.
Just a yes or no?
Okay, gotcha.
Joe, question to you.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
And Bob?
Yes.
And Doug?
Yes.
Okay, so now that we know that we should have a balanced budget, what are your thoughts on the 2011 budget and its assumptions on revenue and expenditures, specifically DPW overtime and parking meter revenue? And are there any changes that you can propose that would improve the budget process for the city? Giovanni, you're first. You have 90 seconds.
I thought the thoughts on the 2011 budget were very good thoughts. I think the meter system that they want to put in place that's being held up by the mayor is a big factor in the budget. The amount that I'm not quite sure what the exact amount was that they had for the meters, but in Wilkes-Barre, the amount was like $400,000 more than the city of Scranton. So I believe that's a very good thing in the budget. One of my ideas to be able to balance the the budget would be to trim the fat off the top where it's at. I mean, you know, I think most people know that. I just think that Mayor Doherty has a very, very top-heavy budget. I think we have to look at some jobs that are there that shouldn't exist and go from there.
Joe, the question to you, 90 seconds.
Well, I believe in a balanced budget, but the main part of a balanced budget is to prepare a good budget. And in this case, the 2011 budget, the dollar values of both the mayor and the council were approximately the same. The problem was each side had a different opinion on how to get to that point. I believe if both sides worked together, we probably could have had a better budget and been closer to being a balanced budget.
Okay, thank you. Tom, the question to you.
Yeah, I do obviously believe that we have to have a balanced budget. This is all part of why I ran as an independent, because I do think that the two sides have to come together to balance the budget. You know, there's the city council did a great thing. I mean, I'm a businessman. I pay mercantile. They reduced my property taxes and they cut my mercantile tax, you know, which was substantial. So I understand that they have to fill that revenue source, and we're gonna have to find ways to fill that hole. But I mean, the current council saved all the jobs, and they benefited all the taxpayers by eliminating the property taxes and the mercantile. And I mean, that by itself says enough about sitting council.
Okay, thank you. Jack, the question to you.
Yes, the budget should be balanced, and working together with my council colleagues, we did have a balanced budget. However, a lot of the revenue items that we had placed in there have not come to fruition at this point. The fact that there was money taken out of workers' comp funds without us knowing also is causing a deficit. Should the mayor work with us? Of course. A lot of the information was provided to us by the business manager, sorry, Mr. McGowan. But we've offered to sit down with the mayor and go over this budget many times. There has been too much borrowing, taxing, and spending. The PEL is looking to raise taxes, raise fees all the time. We had to look at what we're going to do to benefit the people that have been paying the taxes all the years, reduce the business taxes, as Mr. Charles said, reduce the property taxes to help the seniors and the families in this city. And, you know, down the road, we could look at wage taxes also. But we're looking at alternate ways of items of revenue to bring in the city. But the budget was balanced, and if we had some cooperation for the administration with insurance quotes, Street Smart, and some of these other issues, rental registration, we would have more than a sufficient balance in the budget.
Thank you. Bob, the question to you.
Let me preface by saying the problems with the budget, I believe, were caused because of unilateral decisions.
Bob, can you pull that microphone into
Sorry.
you, please?
I believe that the problems that we have were caused by the unilateral decision-making on both the administration part and on council's part. I didn't believe that either proposal that was made for 2011 was acceptable. I didn't like the massive job cuts that were proposed by the mayor, and I thought that the decreases in taxes and some other items in the council budget were equally unacceptable. I think what we need to do is to create some type of cooperation between council and the administration if we're ever going to achieve a balanced budget. With that said, I'm not looking to assess blame to either side. I think it has been a problem on both sides. And we talked about, what can we do to remedy the problems? We've talked about one-time sources, revenue sources. They're a short-term fix, but really don't solve the problem. We've talked here about budget sources, rental registration. Well, it's a problem, failure to hire a coordinator for it. Can I have an extra, said we had an extra minute?
Yep.
The parking meter program, I thought should have been bid originally, and we may have had it in place. We've attempted to do, I don't think the payment in lieu of taxes is a panacea that we've talked about. We've mentioned privatization. I don't think that can work. As we look at it, refinancing the debt. So there are a number of options. I don't think any of them are perfect. But unless we sit down and work through what both sides are willing to agree to, then we will never solve the problem.
Okay, thank you. Doug, the question to you.
Well, as I just stated moments ago, absolutely, I believe we need balanced budgets, and anybody that would state otherwise, I think would need their head checked. My opinion on this issue is council's budget that they proposed, in my opinion, was in the best interest of the residents of this city. When you take a look at it, they cut fat from a bloated budget that was sent down. And for years and years and years, we've had bloated budgets sent down to us, and nothing was ever done. Budgets were rubber stamped, we turned a blind eye to it, and it's led us to the financial disaster that we're in today. Today, we finally have a council that took the bull by the horn, realized that we had to cut fat, realized that we needed revenue enhancements. We've had the rental registration fee, which this administration has failed to implement. We're halfway through May already. We've had a Street Smart program that we've been talking about since December that Wilkes-Barre's been very successful with for the last 4 months. And we haven't even done the trial version yet. Another revenue enhancement that the administration has failed to implement. I believe that this is politics. I believe the administration is playing politics. As far as the comment that was made that council needs to work with the mayor, absolutely they do. But it needs to be the other way around as well. This council's reached out to the administration on several occasions, not just with the budget, on a wide variety of other issues. And it's always been the administration's way, it's been their way or no way. And until we get away from that, until the administration realizes that they need to compromise and they need to work with council, we will never solve our financial problems.
Thank
We
you.
can all, if I may use my extra minute,
Sure.
the solution to the problems isn't raising taxes. We've seen what that can do. My opponent right here, I'm sure, can talk about that. 26% tax increase slapped on you. That's not the solution to problems. We cannot continue to place financial burdens on the residents of this city. Taxpayers work too hard for their money to have that happen, and that's not the solution to our problems. It's not raising taxes. We need to start electing people that understand that people matter, and we need to make the tough choices. We need to make the cuts, and we need the revenue enhancements. That was in this budget, but unfortunately, we have an administration that doesn't want to cooperate. That's the real reason. That's really what's going on here. It's not council, it's the administration. It's their way or no way, and that's got to stop.
Okay, thank you. The next question pertains to taxes, and we'll start with Joe Wexler. Joe, the question is, are taxes at an appropriate level to pay for the services that the city provides? Do you recommend raising taxes or cutting services?
I recommend collecting taxes. Right now, I think the cuts that were made are made. They can't be changed. That's what we have to deal with now. We can't raise taxes again. So right now, we have to find a way to collect more taxes or more fees. The fact that people are moving into downtown Scranton, we will have more wage tax coming into this city. The fact that there's a building boom going on with the university and the hospitals will collect more permit fees. But that's what we have to do first, is get collections up, make sure we're getting every penny we're supposed to get from our real estate taxes and all other things. When we see these delinquent taxes that go on for years and years, they should be collected as soon as possible in the following year after they're delinquent.
Tom, the question to you, and I neglected to say you have a minute to respond.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
The question is, are taxes at an appropriate level to pay for the services that the city provides? Do you recommend raising taxes, or do you recommend cutting services?
Oh, like Joe said, I think we really have to focus on trying to collect what's out there. Like Jack said, you have to focus on trying to collect all these landlords with this rental fee program and nobody to administer it. I mean, that's worth several $100,000 a year, according to the last budget that I just looked at before I came here. You have to focus on the landlords that aren't paying it. I mean, there's mercantile tax that we're not collecting. There's real estate taxes that I know they're not collecting. And the judicial sale is something that they should have focused on, because if they did that, they would have forced all these out-of-town landlords, because I work in the Hill section, I know what it's like up here. It would have forced all these people to come to the table with the money and pay for the real estate that they have. I mean, the University of Scranton, their one-time service, their one-time revenue source with the permit fees and everything else is terrific. I mean, the university's ongoing, with their one-time fees. I mean, they're terrific. Okay, I can't talk no more.
Thank you. Jack, the question to you, are taxes at an appropriate level to pay for the services? Do you recommend raising taxes or cutting services?
Either raising taxes or cutting services is an option. Again, it's been said here, we have to look at more alternate revenue sources. We have looked at some already. We have to be innovative like a lot of other cities across this country. And we have presented ideas like the Street Smart system. Payments in lieu of taxes is another option we have to look at. And we have to go more aggressively on those. The rental revenue, any option we can, but we're at the minimum amount of people we can utilize for services right now. And we just reduce some of the taxes because I think we're overtaxed. And there are ways to do it. We've cut the fat. We don't have to, continue to spend our money without knowing where it's going. We have to get a cap on that.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Bob, the same question to you.
In 2007, due to rising costs of services and lack of incremental tax increases over the years, council was faced with a difficult decision. And yes, I voted to raise taxes. I voted to raise taxes because I wanted to continue to provide the services that we had come to expect. Since then, we have had a full complement of fire personnel and fire companies. We've had a full complement of police and neighborhood patrols, weekly refuse and recyclable collections, parks and pools available for recreational and leisure activities. Is it a coincidence that all of these are now jeopardized by the 2011 budget that reduced taxes? I don't know. But I do know that taxes are a necessity. Anyone who says they will not raise taxes is either a fool or a liar. There is going to come a time when it is absolutely necessary.
Thank
And I
you.
would rather pay for the services
Thank you.
that we have.
Doug, the question to you.
Well, first of all, I don't think at any time raising taxes should ever come into mind. And no, I don't think you would be a fool. I think you'd only be looking out for the residents of this city. And for many years, the only solution for past councils has been, well, let's raise taxes. Well, how much more of a burden, Mr. McGough, can we possibly put on the residents of this city? Haven't they taken enough of abuse for decades, and we want to now consider raising taxes? It's mind-boggling to me. I don't understand why we as elected officials can't use our creativity and come up with new revenue enhancements and solutions. That's where we need to be. We need to be innovative. The solution isn't raising taxes. As far as public safety, cutting services, totally against that. And I'm appalled anytime I hear that mentioned in conversation. I feel the last thing we should be doing is closing engine companies, taking police and firemen off the street. These are all things that we've had happen. Talked about the tax increase, saying that it only complemented engine companies, the police force, and the fire department. Well, I don't see how that's the case. We've had engine companies shut down. We've seen police officers taken off the street.
Thank
and we've
you.
seen firemen taken off the street.
Thank you.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
Giovanni, the question to you.
The taxes are at basically a panic level. There's no way possible we could raise the taxes again in the city of Scranton. It's extremely difficult to do business in the city the way it is. It's extremely difficult to live in the city the way it is. It's extremely difficult to work in the city the way it is. So the raising taxes issue is just not even a question in my mind. Mr. McGough, you said the services we come to expect. What's that? Unplowed roads? Massive potholes in the middle of roads. I've had 3 flat tires in the last 3 years in my car because of the services we come to expect with our tax dollars there. I don't know what you expect, buddy, but I expect a lot more from my city that I put wholeheartedly into. At the cutting services, you can't cut back on services anymore. It's impossible. Again, our roads are in deplorable condition. I have a business in the middle of the city of Scranton, and come the winter time, my customers can't even come into the pizza shop. They just plow the snow right up onto the curb, and we have to shove it away, and then they come and they plow it back on there. So our services are actually terrible.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Tom. I'm going to ask again, this is another 2-part question, so I'm going to ask you for a short response first, and then I'm going to come back and give you a minute to explain your short response, okay? So we're talking about spending in the city. That's kind of been the one issue that I hear over and over again is the issues that we have with our financial problems. So if you had to decrease spending in any one department or program in the city, whatever it is, what would you recommend decreasing spending on? Tom?
Parks.
Parks. Jack?
Parks.
Parks. Bob?
Salaries.
Okay. Doug?
Yes, I would say salaries.
Giovanni?
Mayor Doherty's cabinet.
And Joe?
Unfortunately, it'd be parks.
Okay, so now, Tom, you have a minute to explain why do you think this area is overfunded or overspending?
I think the parks, I mean, the mayor's done a great job with the parks. I mean, nobody can admit that he hasn't. We just don't have, how much can we afford to spend on the parks? I mean, it does provide a place for everybody to go. I mean, as far as safety, I mean, the police have done a great job at the parks. It's a safe place for your kids to go. I mean, I know from experience, Nayog used to be really, really a rough place to be. And as far as Nayog goes, I mean, at least you can send your kids up there and walk around there and not have to worry about what we used to have to deal with. So I think that the park, but there has to be, we have to save money somewhere. And we have enough parks that have been remodeled. We have to bring it in line. We can't keep spending money on parks. I know it's good for the community, but we have to save money somewhere.
Okay, thank you. Jack, the same question to you. Why do you think this area is overfunded or overspending?
Well, at this point, I would agree with Mr. Charles. The parks have been overspent. Over the years, there was contracts put out without bids, significant amount of money spent on parks. Again, I would love to see a park in every neighborhood and a library in every neighborhood. But we have to have the protection, the infrastructure, and be able to manage that first. And that's something that's been being cut continuously at the expense of parks. Every budget, there's money in for new parks, grants for OECD from new parks and stuff like that. We have to blacktop our roads so we have the ability to get to the parks. That's a big problem. And that's one of the reasons why I think parks have been overspent over the past several years, and we have to focus on a new direction.
Okay. Bob, can you bring that microphone in closer to you, please? And then 1 minute, why do you think, and I believe you said salaries,
Yes.
are overfunded or overspending?
38% of our budget is devoted to the fire department, salaries and benefits. 28% to the police department, 19% to DPW. I think it's something like 12% to administration. If we're going to, that's over close to 90% of our budget is tied up in salaries and benefits. If we're going to make any type of significant change in spending, it's going to have to be in that area. Cutting other places, cutting 10% of the budget is not going to really help. We need to focus on that 90%. And I think that we're looking in the future at unilateral cuts in some of these departments. What we have to do is look at how we can be more efficient with the personnel that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Doug, the same question to you.
Well, as I stated, I believe we need to address the issue of salaries. And when I talk about salaries, I'm not talking about the fire department, the police department, and DPW. I'm talking about the administration, the cabinet. It seems that for many years, the only area we focused on is cutting public safety. And we haven't addressed the real priority, which should be the administration and some of the exorbitant salaries. We have people making more than the mayor of Scranton. I find that to be just a little out of line. You know, it's unfortunate that the mayor went this way, closing engine companies, taking cops off the street, taking firemen off the street. When it comes to that, I'm very passionate about that. I take it serious. The last thing we should be doing is jeopardizing the health, safety, and well-being of our citizens. The other thing that's led us to where we are today is we've allowed borrowing to just get out of control over many years.
Thank you, Doug. Giovanni, the question to you.
I'd rather policemen and firefighters roaming the street than people sitting behind desks in suits doing absolutely nothing with exuberant salaries, like Dougie said, even greater than the mayor's. I also believe we're wasting a lot of money with certain city solicitors, fighting the policemen, the firefighters, local businesses for years now. That's an awful lot of money that we could save just from frivolous lawsuits and appeals and whatnot.
Thank you. Joe, the question to you.
The reasons why I said parks is not because they've been overspent spent upon, but right now they are a luxury that we might not be able to afford. When we talk about OECD money, that's federal money that has to be used in certain neighborhoods, and there's restrictions on that. We can't use that to pave roads on East Mountain because of income levels. So there's different money that comes into the city that can be used in certain ways, and it can't be used to pave roads and other things like that. And in terms of administrators, there's only a fine line. If you fired every administrator tomorrow, you still are going to have some type of administrative overhead on the budget. So once that's agreed upon, but you can't just say they're overpaid. You do need administrators. You need managers. That's part of the problem why we're in this, is that we haven't had good managers in the past. And to get those, you do have to pay.
Thank you. The next question, just as a little preamble to this, in preparation for this evening, we, of course, accept questions from anybody who submits them through our website, students that help us, political science classes that help us write the questions. But one of the things that I did, those of you who know me know that I'm a little long in the tooth. I've been around the league for a while now, been doing this for a while. I printed out all of the questions that we've asked of city council candidates since my involvement in the league. And I'm really sorry to say that I've been asking this question almost every single debate, almost every single interview that I've done in the last 10 years plus. The question pertains to, once again, Scranton's distressed city status. Jack, you'll answer the question first, and you'll have 90 seconds. What are the pros and cons of Scranton still being classified as a distressed city? Do you foresee a change in this status sometime in the next 4 years?
Well, I can't look into the crystal ball, but I do certainly hope in less than 4 years we're removed from the Distressed Act. Distressed Cities Act has been utilized as a tool for the most part. We've been in it way too long. There were sacrifices made by many of the employees early on under the Distressed Act, and that was supposed to fund the deficit and take care of it. And here we are today, far deeper than we were when it came to par. PEL has been absent when it comes to managing the Distressed Cities Act and the program. The prior mayor, Mayor Connors, was sanctioned for doing less than the current mayor has done. Public safety director was removed from originally under Mayor Connors, and he was added under the current mayor. There's just, PEL has done an absolutely horrendous job at overseeing it, and I think it's time to take matters into our hands, work on the budget together as we have been, and take this tool away. This tool was only to go after employees, I believe, but it's definitely, it's been an absolute failure, and we have to get rid of it.
Thank you. Bob, the question to you, you have 90 seconds.
I believe that when we were declared distressed and PEL came in, the idea was to try and keep the city afloat until we could achieve recovery, and a recovery plan was established. I don't believe that that recovery plan has worked at all. I think what we really need to do is to sit down again. As I mentioned before, we need to sit down with all concerned parties and develop a new recovery plan, a plan that actually plans for recovery and not just maintaining a status quo. I think one of the drawbacks, or one of the things that's holding this up, are the union negotiations and the lawsuit that is now before the Supreme Court. And I don't think either side is going to budge until that is finally decided. I would hope that the Supreme Court would get to work and do something with that so that we can actually find out what the law says, what it is that we can do, put together a recovery plan that makes sense and that will eventually get us out of this distress status and not after another 17 years.
Thank you. Doug, the question to you.
Well, I'd certainly like to see us have that label removed. I feel, in regards to Pell, I feel they've made a lot of unrealistic goals and a lot of unrealistic proposals to us. They proposed massive public safety layoffs. We've heard massive clerical and maintenance layoffs. We've heard massive tax increases, just unrealistic expectations, burdens that we can't afford to place on the taxpayers of this city. I think the financial situation we're in is really simple. It's the result of decades of fiscal mismanagement, and we need to start finding solutions. We didn't get to this position overnight. It's estimated that our long-term debt is over $313 million. When you think about that, it's scary. And we really just need to start finding solutions, and we need to start addressing this problem soon before it gets too late.
Thank you. Giovanni, your response, please.
Just the word distressed. I can't imagine any pros to that word at all. I mean, obviously the cons of it are the city has been so stagnant and just not going anywhere over these last 17 years. It's truly sad. There's too many things being developed around us, Dixon City, Taylor, Old Forge, Montage Mountain. So, I mean, just the distress status is just really not a good thing. And it is being used as a tool, I think a scare tactic in a lot of ways too, with, you know, safety layoffs and tax increases and stuff like that. It just doesn't work. Just again, the word distressed to me is just tons of cons.
Thank you. Joe, your response, please.
The circumstances of the city, the state, and the nation have changed so much since we were declared distressed. It's just not applicable anymore. The recovery plan is not applicable anymore because things have changed so much. I think really we have to get away from Pell, solve our problems in-house, and make the best of the situation. When we look at the employees of the city, they are obligated to live in the city. They have to live here, so we have to find a way to make this work. If they want to, they have to quit their job if they want to move. Those people are committed to this city, and we have to find a way to get the budget balance and remove the distress level.
Thank you. And Tom, your response.
I think the original plan, I mean, when Pell came in originally, I mean, maybe they came in to help, but they have done nothing. I mean, their answer to everything is to raise taxes and cut personnel and cut the public safety. I mean, and that's not the answer. They've been here way too long. I mean, I don't think that the city's stagnant, Gino, by the way. I don't think that we're stagnant in the downtown area. I think that downtown's one of the few places we have to look at that is, I mean, with the condo building rented out with a waiting list now, I do think there's a lot of good things happening in town. But as far as the distress label, yeah, Pell has to be eliminated. And I hope that the council would do something to, you know, petition the governor or put some sort of legislation through to eliminate Pell completely.
Okay, thank
Could I
you.
rebut something with that, please?
Sure.
The downtown is dead business-wise. You might have a couple people moving in apartments and stuff, but our mall is basically about to close. Molly Brannigan's didn't even make it after we gave them $800,000. They barely lasted a year and a half. The downtown is dead.
May I respond as well?
Doug as well.
Mr. Charles, with all due respect, your opinion on the downtown, I mean, empty storefronts on the 500 block, the condo building, all these giveaways to developers, you know, the Steamtown Mall is dying. Yeah, that's truly a lot to be proud of. I think we have a long way to go, and I think before we start bragging about the downtown, we need to start addressing a lot of these problems because the downtown is dying as well as the neighborhoods. So, thank
Anyone
you.
else? Joe?
I'd like to ask Mr. Piccolino, how's your business been in the past 5 years?
No. I asked the
I'm sorry.
questions.
I would like to
Okay?
know.
You can give your
I'm
own
sorry.
response.
I'm sorry. I would just like to find out, as a person that owns a business downtown, how is the traffic?
Anyone else? Okay. We're going to move on to, away from the budget and spend, well, I guess it still is a little bit of a spending question. And again, a little bit of a preamble to this that ties back to the Scranton's distressed city status. Scranton Tomorrow was formed when Scranton was declared distressed. And one of the things that I worked on when we were doing a citywide visioning project, easy for me to say, was the ability to have public access television in order to, in my words, move government out from behind closed doors so that all of us could understand what government was about. So my question for you pertains to funding for public access television, and we'll start with Bob on this question. ECTV plays an important role in our community by broadcasting governmental meetings, not only for the city but for the county as well. What should council's role be, if any, in assuring that adequate funding exists for public access television? Bob, you have 1 minute to respond.
I think that's a simple response, actually. I think that what first thing we need to do is settle the Comcast contract that does provide funding for public access channels. And secondly, I think that we need to have in the budget some sort of funding for ECTV, or for public access, not just specifically ECTV. I too think it's a necessary part of government. I think it's the only way in which a lot of people have access to what goes on in the city and the community. And I think it is our responsibility, the city's responsibility, partly to fund it appropriately so that it can function to the benefit of the community.
Doug, the question to you.
Well, I believe public access plays a vital role in our community, bringing our government right into our living rooms. And we're very fortunate to have ECTV and public access. As a councilman, I feel that it would be our responsibility to try to implement some sort of enhancements to provide to them to help fund their station. I believe we should try to do our part as a city. They do provide our meetings, and they do provide educational programs to educate the public on government and a wide variety of other programs. So I do support public access, and I do feel we should do anything we possibly can to help keep them here.
Thank you. Giovanni, the question to you.
I am 1,000% for ECTV. My eyes, public access equals open government. So anything that you could fund that would help bring out our government more into the open, I think is a fantastic idea. And if I can answer his question, my business traffic is great. It's because of product, not traffic. And I mean, it's good enough where I don't have to hire illegals either.
Can I make a rebuttal?
Thank you. Doug, no, you've used all your rebuttals. Joe?
I am a supporter of public access, but I also believe that there should be a greater emphasis on getting all the meetings and all the public shows on the internet. In this day and age, with the Facebook, YouTube, there's more access to people on the internet. For myself, I have DirecTV. If I have to see a council meeting or a zoning meeting, I have to go to my mother-in-law's house in Taylor to watch the meeting. If I was able to access online, I could watch it at my leisure and take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, question to you.
I couldn't agree with Joe more. That's what I was actually going to say. I mean, I do have DirecTV, and so does most of the people that I know anymore. So I think you're dealing with the limited audience, and I mean, you still have the elderly that need to watch the meetings that can't get out. I mean, for the most part, they're not going to be on their computer watching YouTube. But there has to be a happy medium, I think. But I am in support of ECTV.
Jack, your response, please.
Thank you. As you know, I am a proponent of accountability, accessibility, transparency. This city council majority has our caucuses done publicly before every meeting. I do thank ECTV for their showing our meetings from beginning to end. I believe that when your organization had the public access TV, it was not publicly funded through city council or the city, and you made do with it at that time. There were contracts put out where we haven't seen a written contract. All we asked for, we did approve the Comcast agreement, and that's in the city solicitor's hand at this point. Everything was approved by council. All we asked for was an RFP. And basically we can, if there's any funding down the road, I'd be happy to look at it, but we have a lot of other issues too.
Thank you. Moving on, let's talk about neighborhoods. And Doug, we'll start with your response to this question. You'll have 1 minute. Choose one Scranton neighborhood and discuss the issues you see in it and any action that you would take to address the problems.
Well, to be quite honest, it's hard to choose one neighborhood. I've had the opportunity, this isn't my first time walking the neighborhoods, but I've witnessed these neighborhoods firsthand, and I'm truly appalled to see the conditions that our neighborhoods are in. I've talked to many residents who have concerns of streets deteriorating, blighted properties, condemned homes, vacant buildings, sidewalks that are in poor condition. These are issues that we need to start addressing. People forget. People don't live in the downtown. People live in the neighborhood. And we need, as a city, need to start taking pride in our neighborhoods. We need to start finding solutions to address this. We need to start finding incentives for people. Maybe institute a program in the summer months, neighbors to make improvements to the outside of their home, and have some sort of contest amongst neighbors and bring some of that friendly competition in the neighborhoods and that friendliness back. Because you hear a lot of stories from people, and they talk about how neighbors used to socialize
Thank you,
and
Doug.
talk, and that doesn't exist anymore.
Thank you, Doug.
If I may say one more thing?
No.
Other people
your
have had
time,
a minute.
No, your time is up, and you've used your rebuttal. Sorry. Giovanni, on to you.
I actually kind of agree with Dougie here. All the neighborhoods are in deplorable conditions. When you're driving through the roads, I mean, it's not just South Side, West Side, even up Manuka, everywhere. I mean, there's big potholes. Everybody has snow removal issues. And I mean, it's just not one thing. There's many blighted homes. And walking the neighborhoods, it's scary to see the amount of homes that are for sale also.
Thank you, Joe. The question was, choose one Scranton neighborhood and discuss the issues you see in it and any action you would take to address the problems.
Well, I'm not going to choose a neighborhood, I'm just going to talk about a neighborhood that I know. I spend a lot of time going up and down from East Mountain through Southside. And Southside right now is the focus of some development that seems to be working. Well, what we have to do is find a way, of the mention of the abandoned properties and the abandoned lots, is we have to find incentives to get those to the people that have decided to stay and make their neighborhoods a better place. And I think you can see that it's working in parts of Southside. Parts of Southside are bad, part of the West Side's bad, part of the Hill is bad. There's certain sections throughout the city that have problems because they have almost been abandoned. I think we have to get back to some type of homesteading. But once again, the money is difficult to get. A lot of it is going to be federal money, so we're going to be, the places that we can use it, we're going to be obligated to use it in low-income areas. But that's like I said, I picked Southside because that's a neighborhood I'm familiar with.
Thank you. Tom, the question goes to you.
In the hill section where I'm from, I mean, I would by no stretch consider the neighborhood deplorable. I mean, the streets aside, that really, I mean, after every winter we have the same problem and the same questions about the potholes. But I mean, they need to do more with blight, and they need to do more with, you know, taking these absentee landlords to task. And, you know, it's not an easy process. But again, I mean, you condemn a house, you either tear it down or you sell it. And I mean, I just went through a process to buy a piece of property. It's not an easy task. It took me a year to buy a piece of vacant land. So it's not that easy. So, I mean, I think the only thing you could do is that the city has to step up and enforce the rules and the laws. That's the only way to get these people to start to pay.
Okay, thank you. And Jack, the question goes to you.
There are no single neighborhoods in this city that are immune to blight. Again, going door to door and going through the different neighborhoods, answering citizens' concerns, I see pockets of blight in every section of the city. And it's unfortunate. Like it was mentioned, federal funding is drying up now for any incentive programs. We do have to focus a little more on blight. I think they are quick to condemn homes, some of them that shouldn't be condemned. We have several issues. I've had several people contact me regarding that. We have to look at the the blighted properties and not just tear them all down. I went to a class in Macungie, and we're working with the we're going to be working on some programs to get some blight programs up to date so we can rehab these structures, not just tear them all down and put them back on the market and be taxable and improve the neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, your response, please.
I'll talk about South Scranton since that's what I'm most familiar with. Over the years, we've seen great changes take place in South Scranton, both in demographics, in housing, in a lot of areas. And I think what we need to do in all neighborhoods, and I've seen it happen in South Scranton, we need to work together with different agencies to bring about change. In South Scranton, there have been a number of properties, blighted properties demolished. There have also been, through Lackawanna Neighbors and through United Neighborhood Services, a number of houses rehabbed and sold to first-time home buyers. I think these are great ideas for rebuilding a neighborhood. We've seen UNC do a number of things. Improvements in parks. Connors Park has greatly changed that area of South Scranton. So I think what we need to do is just work with agencies.
Thank you. The next question goes to, we're going to talk about the colleges, and the first respondent will be Giovanni. So the question is, Scranton has 5 college campuses located either totally or partially within our borders, and 2 more located in the county. What can Scranton do to sell the city to students and their families, both for the short term and post-graduation? And you have 1 minute to respond.
I think the thing that we could sell to the students in short term is that we're a very friendly and loving city. All our taxpayers are honest, hardworking people. I mean, for the long term, once we get some honest and good representatives for us, the voters up here, then for the long term, maybe there could be other things we could discuss. But in all honesty, it's very, very hard to keep kids my age and younger in the city. There's really just not a lot of incentives right now.
Okay, thank you. Joe, the question to you.
Well, I think the city right now, in terms of attracting students, the university, Marywood, and the other colleges are becoming leaders in education in the area, and they're doing a great job selling their schools and having people come here. I think the fact, I disagree with some of the people up here, I think the downtown right now, there's a lot of activity downtown. When you go through town, I'm downtown, I see people, all the places are full. We also have, right now, we have the arena down in Wilkes-Barre. It's not in Scranton, but there are entertainment acts down there. There are a lot of entertainment acts that are coming to Scranton, the cultural center. I think that the kids that come here like Scranton, but unfortunately, there's no jobs that keep them here. They have to leave after they graduate, and they take all the investment that we've made in them, and they take it back to their hometowns instead of leaving it here, where perhaps they would like to stay and raise a family. My nephews stayed in their college towns in Virginia because they like where they went to school. And I think we need to find a way, it's easier said than done, to find a way to make those students stay here.
Thank you. Tom, your response, please.
Getting back to downtown, I mean, we still these students, I mean, we have to bring in some kind of manufacturing jobs. We have to bring in some more retail stores downtown. There has to be incentive for stores to come downtown. I mean, the university is one of the best colleges on the East Coast. I mean, you have Lackawanna, you have Marywood, but we do have to create some sort of incentive for these students to stay here. And I think that the students that come here truly want to stay here because of the community itself. I mean, it's, for the most part, it's safe. I know you're hearing different things, but my brother's a cop, and I do think that it's not anywhere near as bad as the picture that's being painted, but I do think that unless we can create some incentive for people to stay here, then they're going to continue to go.
Okay, thank you. Jack, your response to that question.
I believe our institutes of higher education are second to none in this area, and they have been doing a great job on their own selling this area to their students. And I would have to agree with Mr. Charles on that. We do have to bring jobs here. We have to bring industry that they're being trained in this area. And the way to do that is to make it more business friendly here. And this council majority has reduced the mercantile and business privilege taxes as a first step to do that. Down the road, wage taxes. I have children that have moved out of town. Again, they've gone to college in another area and have lived there and found work in that area. We have to get the industry in here to stop the brain drain. And I mean, with the medical college and these higher institutions like the university here, perhaps they could work with us on ideas on that also. But that's what we need.
Okay, thank you. Bob, your response, please.
Yes.
Students are attracted to quality education, and that's what these colleges provide. What we need to do to keep them here is to develop a partnership to create entrepreneurial opportunities. I don't think that we need to bring industry. I think that we need to bring jobs that are suited to the 21st century. I think that we need to develop between the city, Chamber of Commerce, the schools, and groups like Scranton Tomorrow, programs that will revitalize the entrepreneurial opportunities in this city. I had the opportunity to go to a business the other day. 3 young men, programmers who stayed in this area to work on a new business. Two brothers who are working to create entrepreneurial opportunities for others. I think that's what we need to do with our schools.
Thank you. Doug, your response, please.
Well, obviously, I feel we're very fortunate to have great colleges and universities here in our city. However, we do realize that it is very difficult to attract young adults and to keep them here. We know we don't have many jobs. We've faced overtaxation, and it's driving my generation out of here. And we need to be creative and find ways to keep them here. On another note, the downtown was brought up again. Again, I don't see how we can sit here tonight and brag about the downtown. The numerous empty storefronts, the Southern Union building. We were told it was going to be a jewel in the downtown, and we were going to get hundreds of jobs. It's sitting there empty. Mr. Wexler is talking about Wilkes-Barre. I don't understand why we're up here touting Wilkes-Barre's record. We need to focus on our own issues. And perhaps a suggestion would be to fill some of these empty storefronts, since Mr. Wexler seems to have expertise in this area. Perhaps we can hire some illegal aliens, and maybe we can fill some of these businesses.
We're going to move on. Yes, Tom, you have time to rebut.
Number one, Doug, that was uncalled for. The Southern Union building, if you want to talk about the Southern Union, is almost fully rented. Jerry Donahue owns it. There's all 4 floors are rented in that building. There's law offices in there. There's an accounting firm in there. There's a coffee shop in there. He holds fundraisers. He throws parties. And he rents it out for catering. So I think you might want to check your facts.
Thank you. Joe, did you have any response?
Yes, I don't think I can go all into it here, but the fact that North American Manufacturing was involved in a case, we had all of our documents in order. The company, all you're required to do as a company is to have 2 forms of ID. Our company had that. We switched over to the E-Verify program. Now every employee that we have is verified. If Mr. Miller would like to check his own, he's running a company now, I wonder if he does I-9s on all of his employees. Does he even know what an I-9 is? I don't know. But when Mr. Miller raises a family, buys a house, goes to college, put 2 kids through college, runs a business, runs a neighborhood association, and stops pretending to be a councilman, then he can criticize me.
Thank you. We're going to move on now. The next question pertains to, we're going to circle back to economic development, because we mentioned briefly some money that was given out to some of the businesses in the downtown. So I want to get your perspective on OECD, so the Office of Economic and Community Development. Joe, this question is going to go to you first. And the question is, are the city's economic development programs providing long-term value to the taxpayers? And also, what should or could Council's role be in any kind of interaction with OECD? A minute.
Okay. I think the OECD funds probably should be used a little bit better than they're being used. There's not a lot of programs that we want to see immediate results on, once again, because these projects have to be done in low-income areas. So they're never going to be on East Mountain. They're not going to be in Trips Park. So we're kind of stuck in the projects that we can do. Also, the fact that that amount of money is going to be cut, and we really can't rely on that anymore in terms of being a major part of our improvement to our city.
Thank you. Tom, the question to you.
I think, for the most part, I mean, I've tried to deal with OECD. They're very difficult to deal with. A lot of the loans that we've made, I believe, we haven't been paid back for. I'm not that familiar with, outside of my personal experience, trying to borrow money to improve my business and to purchase a piece of land and expand my business. I'm not that familiar with them. It's a very difficult place to deal with, and I do know, I believe that the federal funding is probably going to be more difficult to come by, because in the past, with the money that OECD has lent out, I don't think we have a great return on our money.
Okay, thank you. Jack, the question to you.
Okay, OECD, they should work closer with council. We do have a representative that's supposed to work close with them, but we try to get information pretty much on a daily basis, and sometimes it's as difficult as Mr. Charles just mentioned as a private person. Their last audit showed that there's over $11 million that they don't have receipts for, is unaccounted for. They've dumped a lot of money in development into the downtown, millions and millions, which is a great thing. However, I think they could have utilized that and spread it out a little bit more to a number of different developers rather than a handful. And we do have a significant amount of buildings that are empty downtown that have been rehabbed. And that's what I see on a daily basis. But we have to get a tighter grip on that money, especially now since the federal government is tightening it up, and there'll be very little left. And we may have to ultimately pay that 11 million plus back. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, your response, please.
Yes. Just two things. First, I think it's less than 10% of the loans have been defaulted on. Not a great number. And that 11 million, I think we should wait until the audit is actually complete and we get the results before we say that there's $11 million missing. Over $4 million in small business loans since I've been on council. That's created close to 200 jobs. Averaged over 25 rehabilitated homes per year, providing jobs in the building trade. Spent over $500,000 per year in rehabbing. Large development projects that have been mentioned, 500 Lackawanna Avenue, Connell Building, Medical School, University of Scranton Science Center, Harriet Beecher Stowe Apartments. I'm going to use my extra time. Homebuyers probe, 25 first-time homebuyers per year through UNC and Lackawanna Neighbors because of OECD. Emergency shelter program that served close to 30,000 people. Neighborhood revitalization programs. Public services such as the Deutsche Institute, Friends of the Poor, EOTC, Project Hope, Boys and Girls Clubs. All of these things have been enhanced through OECD. I think that, yes, we have gotten a good bang for our buck through OECD. I think they work hard, and I think they have done quite a bit to enhance our community.
Thank you. Doug, the question to you.
Well, I certainly feel council needs to have a close working relationship with the Office of Economic and Community Development. There's a lot of issues that need to be addressed in that area. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of giveaways. Grants have been given away to only a select few of developers. We need to start leveling the playing field and opening it up. We need to start looking into grants to invest in our neighborhoods. We need to start addressing the basic concerns. We need to pave our streets. We need to improve our curbs and sidewalks. The basics that residents talk about each and every day. The giveaways, it's got to stop. We need to develop a closer relationship and just put politics aside.
Thank you. Giovanni, your response, please.
I think Mr. Charles said it exactly to a T. OECD makes it difficult for the local businesses, the core of the community. They make it extremely difficult for the core of the community to deal with them. And that's where they go wrong. They give all these outside entities, they come into town, they don't care about the community as much as the businesses that have been here that depend on the city. They take their money and they run. I mean, again, Mr. McGough, you're sitting over here saying the 500 block of Lackawanna Avenue. It's empty. I mean, what kind of project is that? 2.5 years going on empty. There's a chocolate shop, it has nothing to do with the developer, and the church has nothing to do with the developer, and Bona Pizza has nothing to do with the developer. Name another business that came in there, Mr. McGough.
Okay, thank you. The last question that I have before we move on to closing statements this evening is the same question that I've been asking our county commissioner candidates as well, and I like to refer to this as the promise to the voters. And I'll tell you the same thing that I told the other candidates, and the league will be here 4 years from now to check on how you've responded to this question. So the question for you, and Tom, you go first, you'll have 1 minute to respond. If elected, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
Public service, public safety is number one. Like I said, my brother's a cop. We have the best cop and fire department in the state. I mean, these guys are wonderful. I mean, I think DPW does a great job. I really want to focus on keeping jobs and saving the unions. I want to keep everything the way it is now. And we have to find some revenue sources, and we have to find a way to cut, I mean, we can't cut the taxes anymore. I mean, we're where we're at right now. So, I mean, I really truly believe that, you know, keeping public safety where it is going to keep the city safe. And I mean, we're talking about keeping people in the city. We're not going to keep them here unless the city is safe. And that, first and foremost, would be public safety.
Okay, thank you. Jack, the question is, if elected, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
Okay, this is tough. I am the public safety chairman, and I have advocated public safety. However, if I am elected at this point, we've stabilized that. I am looking at the blight issues. The blight issues have really destabilized the neighborhoods, crime-wise, and a public safety issue. A lot of empty vacant homes that are fire hazards. A lot of drugs going on in these blighted areas that are causing police problems and stuff like that. So I think they go hand in hand, but we do have to address neighborhood blight. Neighborhoods have been neglected at the expense of the downtown, I believe, over the past several years. Now we have to focus on them.
Thank you. Bob, your promise to the voter, if elected, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
I'm going to continue to push council and the administration to work together to the betterment of the city. I think that no progress is going to be made in this city until council and the administration stop fighting with one another. We are not working together. We have no direction. And I don't know how that voters will assess that in the future, but hopefully in another 4 years, we can look and see that council and the administration is working hand in hand to do something that will bring about a better Scranton.
Thank you. Doug, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
Well, obviously, one of my top priorities is public safety. And I believe that we, as a council, should be providing taxpayers with the protection that they deserve and that they pay for. We should no longer be shutting down engine companies. We should not be taking police officers off the street. We should not be taking firemen off the street. We cannot be jeopardizing the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of this city. And as I stated earlier tonight, when it comes to this issue, I take it very serious. I'm very passionate about it. I don't feel we should be playing games with people's lives. I think that's what the administration is doing here, and it's got to stop. And that's one of my top priorities.
Thank you. Giovanni, if elected, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
I think this is very simple. Public safety. Our success will be measured by keeping our policemen and our firefighters on the streets. And I mean, it's simple, just public safety, keeping the public safe.
Okay, thank you. Joe, if elected, what one issue will be your top priority, and how will voters measure your success?
I think my success, if I'm elected, would be in 4 years if we are able to sit down and say that the council and the mayor are working together. Not agreeing all the time, which that's never going to happen. That's the way the system is set up. It's a mayor form of government. But I believe that the fact that the mayor and the council, regardless, have not been able to sit down and even talk, not even to sit down and disagree. And I would believe that these other things that we talked about, the public safety, the parks, the development, if we can sit down and talk a little bit, I believe that some of these things will be taken care of on their own. But the fact that we go around all the time. Are you an A or are you a B? We get asked that question constantly. Who are you with? We can't be with anybody. We have to be with the people of Scranton, and we have to be able to sit down with anybody, whether we agree with them or disagree with them. That's how this is going to work.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I can't ask any more questions this evening because we do want to allow each candidate to give a 2-minute closing statement. So we're going to start, as I said before, we drew a name, and Giovanni was the person drawn. So Giovanni, you'll give your first 2-minute closing statement.
Okay, I just want to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here, all the people in the audience, my fellow constituents up here. I just want to make this brief. The main reason why I am running for the office of City Council is to be a fair and honest representative for you, the taxpayers of the City of Scranton. I love the City of Scranton. If it wasn't for the City of Scranton and all the residents, me and my family wouldn't be where we're at. I will fight for you guys just like I fought for me and my family.
Thank you. That's Giovanni Piccolini. Joe, your closing statement.
I think tonight you've heard from comments that there's two different views on where we're at as a city. Things aren't terrible. Things aren't deplorable. There is life downtown. There is life in the neighborhoods. We've been walking the streets. I went to 4 or 5 Little League openings. The fields are full of kids that are playing ball. There's 3 new elementary centers in the city. They're going to attract students. There was a social that we all attended in April for a sick friend of ours that there was over 2,000 people at. There's a positive attitude in the city unless we keep talking ourselves down all the time. Finger pointing at the mayor, finger pointing at me, finger pointing at Bob McGough, that does not accomplish anything. When you come to speak at an event like this, you need to speak about yourself. You need to speak about what you can bring to the city. And I don't believe that a negative attitude that we're hearing tonight is going to accomplish anything. Everybody said that they've been around the city. They've seen the positive attitudes of it. Sure, there's negatives. If everything was perfect, I wouldn't be running for council. But I think you can decide on who can work with what we have in terms of our residents, in terms of our facilities, in terms of our finances, and make this work and make the city move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe Wexler. Tom Charles, your closing statement.
I'm a lifelong resident. I mean, I'm born here. I was born here. I got my whole family's from here. My wife's whole family's from here. I got 2 small kids that I want to send to college here and hope they stay here. I really want to be on council, which is why I'm not taking a salary. I really want to do this just to do the right thing. I really think I could be important. I've managed my own business for 16 years. Payroll, taxes. I mean, there's nothing that I haven't covered in the business that I'm in. Rental properties, etc. So I really, truly ask the taxpayers to vote for me simply because I think that I can be independent. I'm friendly with both sides. I'm running by myself, and I think that I can actually maybe possibly sit down with both sides or at least mediate something between the 2 of us. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tom Charles. Jack Loscombe, your closing statement.
First, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this debate, and I want to thank all the candidates and audience members for attending. Ladies and gentlemen, before casting your vote for City Council, ask yourselves, do I wish to see Scranton go backwards to the old policies of taxing, borrowing, and spending, and laying off our public safety personnel, or do I wish to continue moving Scranton forward with the current City Council majority that finds ways to cut taxes and the size of government, maintain public safety levels to protect you, and seeks new revenue generators to save you money? If you elect candidates endorsed by the mayor for City Council, the consequences may be as follows: a property tax increase to pay for the historical Doherty debt, a continued borrowing and spending which will increase the Doherty debt, layoffs of police officers and thus an increase in crime in our city, layoffs of firefighters and thus closing your neighborhood fire stations, a significant increase in your garbage fees as proposed by the Pennsylvania Economy League. If you elect me, you can expect the same things from City Council you have witnessed during the past year and a half: trimming the size of government, making government more accountable and transparent, cutting taxes when possible, maintaining our current level of public safety, holding the line on our garbage fees, finding new sources of revenue, increasing blight removal to keep our neighborhoods safe and clean. I'm the only candidate sitting here tonight who lowered property taxes over 10% to help our working families and senior citizens. I slashed business taxes 25% in order to create jobs and attract new businesses. We kept our police officers and firefighters on the street for your safety and proposed a real revenue generator for our city in the Street Smart Parking Program. I urge you to vote in this very important race for Scranton City Council. This election will help shape the future of Scranton. The power is in your hands. If elected, I pledge to continue to put your needs and priorities first. Together, we will continue to move our city forward rather than backwards. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Osborne. Bob McGough, your closing statement.
4 years ago, I ran on a platform that stressed respect and common sense. They were two promises that I knew could be kept. Respect for all involved in the process of government is necessary if any progress is going to be made. The use of council for anything other than governance of the city is inappropriate and demonstrates a total lack of respect for all involved in the process. Personal agendas and personal vendettas are not part of the governmental process. While they may be the last desperate acts of the politician, they cannot be tolerated as part of the operations of government. I have steadfastly refused to engage in that behavior, and as a member of council, I have too much respect for the position to which I was elected, too much respect for the people with whom I work, and too much respect for the people of the city of Scranton to engage in any activity which would jeopardize the trust that you have shown me. I can promise that I will continue to respect the office, the people, and the citizens of Scranton, and build the trust necessary to be an effective member of Scranton's city government. Additionally, I can promise to approach the decisions of government with the common sense that years of experience in the workplace and years of living in this community has provided me. I am not asking for your vote because of some vague promises or political ideology. I'm asking for your vote because I can provide you with an honest, informed, and common sense decision-making that you desire. I am asking for your trust and your vote. I'm not asking for your vote because of promises, ideology, or political affiliation. I have attempted to work with the administration to bring about progress in this city. Working with the administration is the common sense thing to do. Placing blame, name-calling are not going to bring about progress.
Thank you,
I have
Mr.
spent a
McGough.
lifetime in this community, and I'll stop.
Thank you so much. Bob McGough. And finally, Doug Miller, your 2-minute closing statement.
Good evening. Let me begin by thanking the Legal Women Voters for sponsoring this evening's debate. For many years, I have been an active member in our community by participating at council meetings as well as various other public forums by voicing my views on a wide range of items. My involvement led me to forming the city's first junior city council in February of 2006. This program served as an educational tool for students throughout our city by teaching them how our government functions. I served as president from 2006 until 2008. I find myself to be a very unique candidate in this race. I would ask you where today you would find a 21-year-old man who expresses so much passion for public service as well as our great city. I am extremely concerned about the present time as well as the future generations of our city. We must make Scranton a cohesive community as well as affordable to live and work in. I have been knocking on doors for months now, and I have had the privilege of meeting thousands of residents who express concerns about the deterioration of our city, how they struggle to meet their obligations, some who have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to get by. Those are my concerns. Those are the concerns that I intend to address. Too many people are fleeing this city due to these problems. I know I can help our city, and I pledge to be another positive voice on Scranton City Council. I do not work for the administration, nor do I own a rubber stamp. I will work for you, and I will treat you with the respect that you deserve. My slogan in this campaign has been putting you ahead of politics, and I will always stand by those words. I will always make decisions based on your best interests. On Tuesday, May 17th, I encourage all of you, to exercise your right to vote, and I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug Miller. I want to thank all of our candidates for joining us here this evening and for their commitment to democracy. It takes a lot to run a campaign for City Council. It's a big city to go door to door in, so how about a hand for all of our candidates? Thank you so much. I also want to thank our partners again, the University of Scranton, the College Democrats, the Political Science Department here at the university, and ECTV as well. I'd also like to extend my personal thanks to the board of the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County. Jean Harris and Bonnie Oldham are here with us this evening. Anne-Marie Stamford and Dan Schreffler are not with us, and Tom Welby's not with us either. So I do appreciate everything that they do and that we all do as volunteers because we feel so passionate about making sure that we all know, have some information about who we're going to vote for. Don't forget that May 17th, Tuesday, is Election Day, and that we will have contested races on the county commissioner side, the county controller, the city controller, and the city council. We'll be voting for 2 of these gentlemen who are sitting on the stage right now. Out of the 6, 2 will be elected and will face off in the general election against the Republican candidates. There's 1 Republican candidate on the ticket, and that's Lee Morgan. He's with us here this evening, but was not invited to participate in this because we do have a closed primary in Pennsylvania, so these are only the Democratic candidates. We also have a hotly contested race. There's many, many candidates for the Scranton School Board, so I invite you to make sure that you're checking information that's in the Scranton Times that's been covering it. Unfortunately, we simply did not have the volunteers to do anything with enough volunteers to get the work done that we needed to do for Scranton School Board. So if you're interested in helping us, I invite you to join the League of Women Voters. We'd love to have you. And don't forget, if you appreciate the work that we do, we invite you to make a financial contribution on the way out the door that will help us cover some incidental expenses. So once again, don't forget to vote on May 17th, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
And thank you.